We get to celebrate our favorite cars here on the Audrain Museum Network, and hopefully some of them will become your favorite cars as well. The only way to do that is to make sure you see all of our videos, subscribe so that you're always in touch with what it is that we're doing. Thanks. Hello and welcome to our exhibition, History, Luxury, Sport, Automobiles in Newport, here at the Audrain Automobile Museum in Newport, Rhode Island. I could not be more thrilled to talk about the two cars we're going to talk about in this segment. Those of you who have come to know me through these videos here on the Audrain Museum Network, on Jay Leno's Garage, through my writing for various magazines, know that I have a particular soft spot for Italian cars, and Italian post-war sports and sports racing cars. Although my tastes are incredibly wide, as you've also seen here in the network, these are cars that somehow speak to me in a really, really clear and dramatic way. And speaking of drama, there are very few cars more dramatic than this one right here. This is a 1947 Cisitalia 202 Mille Miglia Aerodynamica Coupe. And this is a car that expresses on its face exactly what it's designed to do. It's designed to win races. The story of these two cars we're going to talk about today also are interestingly intertwined. Compagnia Industriale Sportiva Italia, Cisitalia, was founded by Piero Duzio, who was a fairly well-known Italian soccer player in the 1920s, and he also loved cars, and he raced in the Mille Miglia in the 1920s as well. He later went on to found a textile company that manufactured sporting uniforms and also later military uniforms. But he always kept his love for racing, and after World War II, he decided to start a company building race cars. And obviously, the Fiat-based specials that had become very, very common throughout the 1930s were a great starting point for any new manufacturer, and Cisitalia was no different. And it was very interesting in that he took in two technical partners to help him start his business. They helped him develop his small voiturette Grand Prix car, the D46, as well as to launch an ambitious new project for a vehicle to be known as the Cisitalia 360. And in this project, Ferdinand Porsche had the idea to go back to his pre-war days at Auto Union and design a really interesting but fearsomely complex rear-engined Formula One car that had a very complex engine, a complex suspension. It would have been something really, really interesting to see on the track. However, it really strained the resources of Piero Duzio, and in a few years, he would leave Italy, go to South America, and that's a totally different story, but it relates to the next car we're going to talk about. But let's talk about this first. This is a car made during the period when Cisitalia was most hopeful and riding its highest. This car was built for the 1947 Mille Miglia and was extremely successful in the race because of its lightweight, terrific power-to-weight ratio, and very slippery shape. And this car is about the shape. This is a car which is designed not only with the wind tunnel in mind, but with a wind tunnel. The brilliant Giovanni Savanuzzi, who had done a lot of work with Fiat and other manufacturers before World War II, continued his great work after the war, and using the resources of the Turin Polytechnic University, was able to shape this car. The fins that you see in the back, which you would later see on a lot of American cars in the 1950s, and indeed Savanuzzi went on to become a consultant for Chrysler through their various associations with Italian coach builders, are incredibly functional. And the coupes did very well. However, the real stars of this design were the spider models, the open models, one in which the great legendary Tazio Nuvolari actually almost won the 1947 Mille Miglia. Remember, this is an 1100cc Fiat-based car, and he came in second in the overall standings in the 1947 Mille Miglia, and henceforth all of the spiders would be known as Spider Nuvolari. But this is a car that is so incredible in its details. You see that everything is very functionally based. There are louvers cut into the hood for added cooling. The driver and his navigator, of course, are aided by no fewer than 3 windshield wipers. And of course, ventilation is one of the toughest things in a small coupe like this. And it's got these really neat vents cut into the roof of the car to aid in adding ventilation for the interior, but also not disturbing the airflow too greatly. It's an astonishing thing to think about the fact that Battista Pininfarina gets credit for what is arguably one of the most beautiful cars and important cars in design of all time, the Cisitalia 202 Coupe. The basic design of that car can be seen here in this Savanuzzi Coupe. And Battista Pininfarina expertly massaged that design to make it more suitable for a road-going GT car. And for that, we can be eternally grateful. And this is a car, the kind of car that I absolutely love, because it just expresses so well its function. It's beautiful, it's dramatic, it's successful, it's fun to drive. It's just absolutely everything that you want to have in a post-war Italian sports racing car. We're grateful to Lawrence Ariana for loaning us this amazing Cisitalia Aerodynamica. The next car we're going to look at is the expression in a different way of that same goal, but sort of the continuation, the end chapter of the story of Cisitalia and Piero Duzio. Let's take a look at another one of my favorite cars on the planet. We were just speaking about Cisitalia and the Austrian help that Carlo Duzio engaged in Ferdinand Porsche and Karl Abarth. Well, in 1949, when Piero Duzio decided that he had had enough and left Italy for Argentina and his son to continue as he could the Cisitalia business, the severance, as it were, from his work for Cisitalia for Karl Abarth were a number of chassis that were being prepared for both open-wheel racing and for GT car racing. Those cars, which became the Abarth 204 and 205, were the first cars that Carlo Abarth marketed and raced, and really started to establish his name as more than just an accessories manufacturer for Fiat-based vehicles. The car behind me is a great example of the fact that every manufacturer needed to, in addition to racing cars, sell their cars to the wealthy gentlemen who could help support the racing teams. This is 1953 Abarth 1100 SS Ghia Coupe. This car, based on the incredibly flexible and useful Fiat 1100 mechanicals, like the one seen in the Cisitalia 202, was an absolute marvel. This was an example of the collaboration between great chassis builders and engine builders like Carlo Abarth and wonderful coach builders like Carrozzeria Ghia. And Giovanni Michelotti, who was probably one of the most noted post-war freelance designers, designed this car, and it's very much in the stile transatlantico, or transatlantic style mode. We see lots of influences of American cars in Italian coachwork after World War II, and this vehicle borrows a lot from the 1950 Ford, which is a wonderful car. The slab sides, that bullet nose that gives you that whole jet age look, but does it in an incredible scale. This car is a masterpiece of design because it defies scale. If you see a photograph of this car, you have no idea whether it's a very small car or a very big car. With me providing scale standing in front of it, you can see that it's a very small car indeed. But it's a car with incredible detail. They built only one of these based on the Fiat chassis. There was a second car built on a Simca chassis as well, which shared the style, but with some detail differences. And the Simca is left-hand drive. This Fiat Abarth-based car is right-hand drive. And it is an incredible melding of sports, luxury, and style. And it's no surprise that this car, owned by Buzz and Bradley Calkins, won Best of Show in the 2021 Audrain Newport Concours d'Elegance. This is the car that when the jury announced their decision, I thought, what a perfect car for this concours and for this win. Because in celebrating, as this exhibition does, history, luxury, and sport, this car embodies all of those in a very, very, very present and vibrant way. History, it's one of the earliest cars built by Carlo Abarth with his firm in the beginning of its great successes. Luxury, it is fitted out like any of the top tier coach built cars you could ever see. And sport, what Carlo Abarth was already accomplishing at this time in 1953 would shortly become the stuff of legend. So this is a car that I think not only effortlessly combines those things, but does it in a very compelling way. This is the kind of car that really speaks to me because of the way it represents its time, its makers, and its intended function. This is a car that the gentleman sportsman could get in and have a great time driving around and making a great impression while doing it. This car's history is also quite interesting in that it was sold to an American after being shown in a New York auto salon in 1953, who thought, this is a great car, I'm going to go into series production with it with an American V8. Quite fortunately for us, he never put the American V8 in it, but he did show it as the prototype of his new American powered sports car. This car also is very interesting to me because one of the things that I love about what it is that I get to do is that I get to discover things. I'm surrounded by great cars all the time, every day, and sometimes it's easy to become jaded and just think, well, what is there left to find? I always thought, as most of the world thought, that this car was lost. I'd only ever seen it in small black and white pictures in books. And then after 30 years of undisturbed slumber in a Maryland barn, it was discovered by a collector in Canada who bought the car, took it to his shop, completely restored it with incredible attention to accuracy of historical details, and then brought it to the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance, where it was one of the finalists for Best of Show. And this is amazing. When I first walked on the lawn and saw this car, my breath was taken away. And to be near it here, to have had it in the concours here in Newport, to win its prize, and to have the Calkins so generously loan it to us for this exhibition is extraordinary. Every time I see this car, whether it be at the Concorso d'Eleganza Villa d'Este, at Pebble Beach, or here in Newport, my breath is taken away, and I am so grateful that I get to do what it is that I do. Thanks for joining us here for this exhibition highlight, and please join us for the next one as we celebrate history, luxury, sport, automobiles in Newport. Thanks for watching.